2, 3.
Go
Hey,
from
everybody.
there.
Welcome to Jiggy and Johnny Talk Restaurants. So you can have a better understanding about what people in the restaurant industry think. And that way it'll help you understand some of the mannerisms and different things that we do. Right?
Yes.
That's your cue. I'm just giving you a hard time, bro.
So, what do you want to cover? Well, first of all, before we get this going, tell people your restaurant experience and why you're qualified to do all this.
I don't know if I'm necessarily qualified, but I've been in the business forever. Started as a young kid because I'm an old fart, so started out working at a Sonic when I was 12 years old. Okay, it was a neighborhood thing in a small town. When I was 17, well, 16, I got hired at a Pizza Hut in my hometown because the general manager was my next door neighbor. So I basically was running that half the time because I knew I couldn't call in. I knew I couldn't do anything else because he lived next door to me. So, but Larry Fugate, I don't know if he's still big into the stuff. He may have sold out, but at the time, he owned like 250 Pizza Huts and then got into a bunch of Taco Bells and all that stuff. And when I was 17, he asked me if I wanted to move to Oregon and manage 2 stores out there for him. And then I looked at him, I go, hey, I really appreciate that, but I'd really like to graduate high school first. So it was my senior year.
That's awesome.
And he would just kind of laugh, and he was like, oh, okay, I didn't realize you were that young. Okay, never mind then. But then, I started doing supervisory stuff and training at different places, and every place I worked, we've seen an increase in sales, decrease in costs. And it wasn't just because of me, but it's because I knew how to try to fit into the team dynamic. Restaurants are all a team. You can be the best person in the world, but it's like car sales. Car sales can sit there and they can actually excel, and the rest of the place can kind of semi-suck. But if you've got 5, 6, servers at a restaurant, only one of them's really good, and the other 4 or 5 really suck. People don't sit there and go, Jiggy at blah, blah, blah was really good, but the others were terrible. They just say the restaurant sucks. So That's what I always try to teach people. It's like you try to sit there and be nurturing and helpful and teach them. Then you end up being like a wolf pack because if they're not getting it, they're just dragging you down. So you just all need to kill them off. But I have well over 20 years of supervisory management experience, not only in that, but also in retail. With Best Buy, I was a loss prevention supervisor. I was the #1 sales supervisor for appliances that they had in the district. And That's with no prior experience at it. It was just, I know how to sell.
Wow. Look at that.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm the best because I wasn't, but every place I worked, it got better.
That's fantastic. So tipping today, and one of the things, the list of in the interest of full disclosure, as they say, I am not a fan of tipping people at restaurants. I am a dick. Explain the concept of tipping to people who have been hiding under a rock and don't quite understand why it is important to tip and why people like me should do more tipping.
There's going to be people like you all over the place. So don't feel like you're an anomaly because you're not.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is, there's 2 different things that tips stands for. It's either to ensure proper service or to ensure prompt service. Those are the 2.
Okay, I did not know this.
Acronym comes from. Now, the whole reason that the restaurants where you get sat down and waited on and stuff, there's a tipping procedure, is because that keeps the costs down. Everybody can sit there and say, well, why don't they just pay them a livable wage? Because then that would make their margin go down. If their margin goes down, they're just going to jack up the prices. So if you want to keep getting that, order of 6 buffalo wings for $7.99 instead of paying $13.99 for it, feel free to tip. It's not that hard. I mean, yes, servers only get per se $2.13 an hour, but that's basically to cover taxes on everything. Most servers make really good money depending on the area and depending on the motif of the place. You get those white trash diners, where you've got everybody in there and they reek of coffee and cigarette smoke and they want to play Keno and buy lottery tickets. No, you're not going to make any money there. But you go to a nice place, you can sit there and eat at a decent price. The server makes some money, and you're really not out that much more because no business is going to cut their margin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? It's like if you sit there and you owned a business, Jiggy, and you had, all of a sudden the minimum wage gets jacked up, which is, understandable. It's going to happen here and there.
Yeah.
But if it goes from like $8 an hour to $12 an hour, that would be a huge cut in your margin. You're either A, going to get rid of help.
Yeah.
B, your service is going to suck no matter what industry you're in. Or C, you're going to jack up the price to sit there and recreate the margin. It's an economic thing there. Now, I'm not one of those people that think you should tip automatically. You shouldn't.
Okay.
If you get good service, then yeah, you tip. Standard tipping is between 15 to 18%. If you get excellent service, tip a little bit more. If you're one of those people who uses a coupon or you get a gift card, you tip on the amount before that. And if you sit there and you have like 4 little kids that are going to make a hellhole of a mess, then you should tip more.
Yeah.
Because those people are going to have to sit there and clean up everything. Now, if you
That
think
too.
of, oh yeah, it's terrible, dude. I mean, I've seen some places, but the funny thing is I've seen adults that have made bigger messes than any kid. But I mean,
Wow.
if you think the servers can make an extremely livable wage and they don't have to sit there and put up with 8 hours of somebody coming in going, "Hi sir, would you like to add a protection plan to that purchase with your brand new cell phone?" They can just go out there and they can become a salesperson. I know people that put themselves through medical school. I know people that put themselves through college.
Yep.
I know people that have bought a house and had it paid off in 8 years working for tips.
Wow.
There were girls when I worked for, well, you remember where I used to work. I don't want to give them a whole lot of free publicity or anything because I still like it. But anyway, there were girls there. I mean, with bonuses and stuff, I made like $60,000 that year.
Wow.
Well, anyway, there were girls in there that made twice as much as me. Like there was a gal that worked there. She was excellent. I mean, she hustled. She knew what she was doing. She was putting herself through a nursing school, and she was buying her first house. It was a small little one. Then she ended up getting married. And they ended up getting a better one, but she graduated near the top of her class, and she worked 4 nights a week, and that's it.
Wow.
And I mean,
that's pretty damn amazing.
Before she graduated nursing school, she had her own house. Her cars were all paid off. She had 2 cars that were all paid off. And then she was set. There's a lady I trained at a job with. She was a server out in St. Louis, Missouri. And she had people that were regulars. You had to schedule to come in to have this gal wait on you.
Wow.
Okay.
Holy smokes.
She was like just getting ready to hit near 50 at that point. Okay, she had 3 cars. She had a 5-bedroom house that was completely paid for in a very nice neighborhood in St. Louis. And she had a massive amount of money in the bank. So she wanted to, when she hit like 52, she could retire and never have to worry about anything.
Wow.
But then you get the people that sit there and they don't get their money properly. So it goes both ways. But you got to think somebody busts their ass to help you out and keep the price of something lower.
Yeah.
What's the harm in throwing a few bucks? So if it's a $20 tab like that, $4 is 20% tip.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. If you have kids, you should almost double that because they're going to have to sit there and do twice as much work, especially in the cleaning part. Kids are great. Kids can be a pain in the butt, but I think they're more great than they are a pain in the butt. Because kids dictate 90% of where people eat if you have children.
Yes.
If you can entertain the child and the child likes going there, that's where the child wants to go. So mom and dad are going to go there. And I learned that at an early age. So anytime somebody came in when I was waiting on tables and they had kids, first person I sit there and talk to was the kid. I'd say hi, mom and dad, but I'd sit there and go, hey, how you doing? I go, my name's John. What's your name? And they were just thrilled. Some of them were a little bit taken back because, I'm a giant person. And some kids are apprehensive no matter what. But most of them were like, oh, wow, he's asking me. Or I'd come over and joke, and I'd sit there kind of nudge them jokingly. I go, are they being good for you? And I'd point to their mom and dad. The kid would look at me and go, if you think you're getting in trouble, don't answer, okay? It's cool, but I'm here if you need some help, okay, buddy?
That's awesome.
But tipping is a simple process. It's like, if you want to keep a nice place in your town or a nice place stay open, you need to learn how to tip. If you're going to sit there forever, you need to learn how to tip appropriately there. It's like, if you go in to watch a game and you're going to be there 3 or 4 hours, you really need to jack up the tip as long as you're getting good service.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the whole thing. If the food's screwed up, 90% of the time it's the kitchen. 10% of the time it's the server that put it in wrong. Don't punish the server because it takes a while for the food or the food comes out wrong.
Yeah.
Just, if you don't like it and it wasn't that good, just don't go back. I'm not saying that to be mean, but that's the simple thing. Don't punish the poor server who's making $2 an hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's not a dig at you, so don't worry, Jiggy. I mean, you're used to Hutchison service or McPherson service. And it's like the big, huge restaurant in town is Applebee's. If Applebee's is the biggest, nicest restaurant you have in town, you probably don't have that big of a town, and that's cool. You know what I mean? And like I say, it's meant to ensure proper service.
Well, I will have to say
things that you look for.
Yes, go
ahead. I was going to say, things you want to look for are, as a guest, are they courteous? Do they keep your drink full? Now, you also got to sit there and remember, if you're one of those people that sucks stuff down like crazy, take a little bit off that. But if you're sitting there with an empty glass for like 13 minutes, that's when you deduct from it. Okay. They were friendly. The drink is ready, like that. Make sure you have everything to eat your meal when it gets there. It's like if you wanted steak sauce or you wanted mustard or something like that for it. If the server doesn't have it out there before the food gets there, that's another deduction. Okay, and if you have to wait forever to pay your ticket, another deduction. Now, if they're Johnny on the spot with everything, that should be like, bump it up. But if you go in there and you're watching, say, like, you're going to go in and you're going to watch the Wichita State basketball game.
Yeah.
You're going to be sitting at that table for between 2 to 3 hours. Okay, think of it that way. Think of if you were making an hourly wage, think of it that way, because that server could turn that table at least 2 more times to make 3 times as much, especially if you take in a huge group. So, like, if you have a $100 tab and you've been there for 3 hours, you should tip a minimum $30, minimum. Because that server could have turned it over a couple of different times. Turning over means they could have had somebody come in, served them, got them in, got them out, got another table. That's
Yeah.
what turning over means.
Yeah.
Okay, so where they could have made maybe $50, if you only tip them 15, even though that's a good tip on a $100 tab, you've cost them money. And also, most people that work in the service industry, especially servers, they have to tip out anywhere from 1 to 3% of their total sales. So if they sold $300, they're going to sit there and tip out $9 because you're tipping out A to the hostess, B to the bartender 1%, and if you have bussers and stuff, usually that's a percentage. So if you go in there and you tip like crap, you're costing that server money. And it's one of those things, if you can't afford to tip, that's the reason they got places that have dollar menus in a drive-thru. Seriously, it's like,
that's
if
awesome.
you can afford to go in and spend $100 and some odd in a restaurant, as long as you're getting proper good service, you can afford to tip. And I will tell you, every stereotype known to man has truth if you sit there and you work in the service industry for 6 months. You'll see exactly why people think that. Every single stereotype.
Wow.
I mean, I could go in depth, but I don't want to get like myself shot or cancel culture. But there is. It's like people sit there. You live in Hutchinson, okay?
Yes.
Hutchinson is thought of as one of the drug capitals of Kansas.
Yes.
Okay, but not everybody does drugs there. Just about 60% of them, but
Yeah.
And they all just live in the same neighborhoods you do. You're the anomaly, Jiggy. But you see where I'm coming from on the tipping?
Yes.
But if they don't take care of you, like they don't refill your drink, they ignore you, then yeah, I mean, hey, a server should earn the tip. That's the biggest thing.
Yes, and that is some things that I have run into with the lovely Britannia over the years, is that she just tips everybody. That's a lot of times where I'm like, what are you doing?
I've only had one time where I didn't tip, and that's because the server was that terrible.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've got to be really bad not to get at least a 15% tip from me. I mean, you've got to be really bad.
Yeah.
And you know me, we've been to a restaurant together before, and I'm not that demanding.
No.
I've done that all my life. So that's what I mean. Base it on the service you get, but also have realistic expectations. You temper that, that's good. So, like I say, if you're going to be sitting there for 3 hours, you should triple the tip you thought you were going to give, as long as you get proper service. That's the whole thing. Tipping is not required, but it is suggested. Yeah. I had a gentleman once, he was like, well, I don't believe in tipping. I go, okay, well, I hope you tell me exactly everything you need in this one trip. I go, because I'm not going to come back out here again after that. And he was like, well,
wow.
No. I go, I appreciate that you had the decency to tell me that ahead of time. I go, but I work for tips, and if you're not going to pay me, I'm not going to work for you.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing there.
That's a hell of a
deal.
deal.
All that in a nutshell, brother.
That's a hell of a deal.
Questions?
If I'm not...
Or did I explain it well?
No, you explained it excellently. I think it's great that you did the that you pulled that deal on the guy where you said, "Hey, I'm not gonna be back out here because that's what I do is I work for tips."
Right. It's like, if you're not gonna pay me, I'm not gonna work for you. So
that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you doing this. This is definitely I needed the education. So, and I know that everybody else needed the education. So
it's just a simple thing. If people got questions or they want to make comments or something, just feel free to let me know what it is, Mr. Jigman.
Well, that'll work, and we will do that. And thanks for doing this, and I guess I will talk to you next week. Thank you, sir.
That's what I say. See you, Big Daddy.
Appreciate it. There he goes. John Mosier, the biggest out of business, as I like to call him. And that about